Welcome back to CIA Declassified. During the Cold War, a defector was more than just a source of information. They were a target, but the agency knew that a spy's greatest vulnerability wasn't their own life, it was their family. When a high ranking Soviet official decided to flip, they rarely did so alone. They demanded safety for their wives, their husbands, and their children. This was Operation FERRY, a high stakes, multi decade logistical miracle designed to spirit entire families through the Iron Curtain under the very noses of the KGB. Moving a single spy is difficult. Moving a family of four with luggage and a crying infant is an operational nightmare. Operation FERRY utilized a network of safe houses in West Berlin that were disguised as ordinary laundromats and bookshops to hide families awaiting extraction. A quote from a declassified 1974 after-action report. The extraction of the cargo must be timed to the second. Any deviation in the transport schedule results in immediate termination of the window. End quote. The CIA often used modified vehicles with false bottoms and hidden compartments large enough to hold two adults and a child for several hours. Agency psychologists were often on site at safe houses to manage the extraction shock experienced by children who were suddenly told they could never go home again. Operation FERRY worked in tandem with the Office of Training to provide defectors' families with instant history kits, backdated school records, family photos, and even forged medical histories. A quote from Officer Burton Gerber, former station chief. "You aren't just saving a life, you are deleting an old one and manufacturing a new one from scratch. It is a heavy burden for the family to carry." End quote. In the 1980s, the agency utilized high-speed stealth boats to ferry families across the Baltic Sea under the cover of dense fog. The declassification reveals that many ferry missions were disguised as diplomatic courier runs to grant the families legal immunity if caught. The CIA maintained a secret fund specifically for Operation FERRY to pay for the lifelong relocation and education expenses of these ghost families. A quote from an internal CIA memo on humanitarian extraction. "The loyalty of the source is directly proportional to the perceived safety of their dependents. We do not leave the children behind." End quote. One famous mission involved smuggling a defector's daughter through a Soviet checkpoint inside a hollowed-out double bass case during an orchestra tour. Operation FERRY protocols required that all extracted family members be taught basic counter-surveillance before they were allowed to settle in the United States. The declassified documents highlight the paper bride tactic, where agency officers would legally marry female defectors to provide them with immediate U.S. citizenship and protection. The ferrymen were a specialized group of officers who spoke fluent Russian and German and specialized in high-stress civilian transport. Most families moved under Operation FERRY were resettled in the American Midwest to avoid the high-density surveillance of major coastal cities. Operational records show that the CIA commissioned specialized ultra-quiet rubber engines for the small inflatable boats used to cross the River Spree. A quote from a 1982 debriefing of a cultural attaché. "The most dangerous moment isn't the border, it's the first 3 minutes in the new country when the child wants to call their grandmother." End quote. The agency developed a chemical spray used on the tires of escape vehicles to neutralize the scent tracking abilities of the KGB guard dogs. During the 1960s, FERRY teams utilized infrared beacons that were invisible to the naked eye but could be seen through specialized goggles to signal waiting pickup teams. A quote from the Declassified Training Manual on Civilian Extraction. The asset's family is the bridge. If the bridge collapses, the asset falls back into the hands of the adversary. End quote. While the rescue stories are inspiring, the release and declassification of the FERRY archive contains a section known as Folder 99, Non-Biological Assets. These pages are completely redacted. Why? Listen close to the theory of the phantom families. Speculation suggests that Operation FERRY wasn't just a rescue mission, but a genetic harvesting project. Theorists claim the CIA targeted specific Soviet bloodlines with high IQ markers. The black redactions allegedly hide the new identities given to families that never actually existed. Experimental superfamilies created in labs and seeded into the American population to see if they could outbreed the locals. What if they were decoys? A dark rumor suggests the CIA used synthetic humans to swap with the real families to trick the KGB. This double-blind theory posits that the real families were often kept in agency custody for study, while the ones that lived in the suburbs were biological constructs. The redactions hide the expiration dates of these clones and the locations of the decommissioning facilities. Could they be sleep agents? Some speculate the redacted manifest describes Project HypnoKid. The theory is that the children brought over were implanted with subdermal transmitters, and the black bars hide the trigger words that haven't been spoken yet. Watch for the ghost cargo rumor. It claims the redactions prove the agency was ferrying digital consciousness back to the USSR in the bodies of the children, and the black ink covers the download logs. What if the safe houses were labs? Some believe the redactions hide Operation Tabula Rasa, where the families had their entire memories wiped and replaced with ideal American personalities. Put on your tinfoil hats for the mere defector theory. This gossip suggests the redacted pages detail how the CIA actually kidnapped families from American suburbs and sent them into Russia to act as deep cover, unaware hostages, and the black ink hides the social security numbers of the victims. Check the locks for the infiltrator rumor. It claims the redacted sections describe Project Chameleon, where the families were actually highly trained adult commandos who underwent surgery to look like children, allowing them to infiltrate Soviet schools. Could the safe houses be between dimensions? Some speculate the redactions hide Operation Slipstream, a method of moving families through a non-space that exists between walls, explaining how they vanished from locked rooms. Brace yourself for the royal extraction theory. It suggests the redacted manifest proved the agency was actually rescuing the descendants who had been hidden in the Soviet working class, and the black bars protect the location of the true czar. And lastly, is the truth out there? Some believe the redactions hide evidence that some families were actually non-human entities seeking asylum from Soviet research labs, and the black ink covers their biological requirements. Was Operation FERRY a success? Tactically, it was a flawless victory. There is no recorded instances of a FERRY family being successfully intercepted by the KGB once they reached a CIA safe house. Strategically, it was the agency's greatest recruiting tool. Word spread through the Soviet intelligence services that the Americans took care of their own. This knowledge directly led to the defection of over a dozen high-level walk-ins who otherwise would have stayed in the East for fear of their families' lives. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, moving people in silence forced the agency to innovate. Mobile sound dampening, the development of portable white noise generators used to mask the sound of children and movement in safe houses. Rapid aging document tech, mastering the ability to make a new passport look 10 years old in less than an hour. Urban camouflage, perfecting the dead drop logic for human cargo moving people through crowds without drawing a single eye. And identity verification systems, the first use of pre-agreed physical cues, like the specific way a lantern is held to verify agents in the dark. Operation FERRY wasn't about the headlines, it was about the whispers. It was the silent promise made in a cold Berlin alleyway that your children would see a sunrise in a place where they didn't have to be afraid. Today, those children are adults living in Seattle or Omaha or Albuquerque, carrying the secret history of a boat ride that changed the world. Thanks for listening. Join us next time as we examine Project Naughty. The agency wanted to know what happens when you take everything away. We'll uncover the 1960s test on sensory deprivation. We'll look at the isolation tanks, the lightless rooms, and the psychological breaking points of agents who volunteered to disappear inside their own heads. Join us next time for the silent cell. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.